shadow on the wall that looks like a man. Lord, that lamp just moved on that stand. I got movement in the cellars, I got footsteps in the hall. There's no time to waste, I better make some calls. I gotta get ready, make everything right, 'cause all my rowdy friends are goes hunting tonight. Hey, round up the team, let's get started. Hey, this is Brother Mike. There's a party and you're invited. We got the camera set, let's turn off these lights, 'cause all my rowdy friends are goes hunting tonight. This old house has a long history. It should be real, real good for activity. And we got the house wired for sound and got motion alarms setting all around. Got a box full of batteries ready to go, and everyone's itching to start this show. Got our logo tees, driving black SUVs, and that one bald guy with a slick goatee. Hey, round up the team, let's get started. Hey, this is Brother Mike. Well, there's a party and you're invited. We got the camera set, let's turn off these lights, 'cause all my rowdy friends are goes hunting tonight. Hey, round up the team, let's get started. Hey, this is your big brother Mike calling. There's a party and you're invited. We got the camera set, let's turn off these lights, 'cause all my rowdy friends are goes hunting tonight. That's right. Go get 'em, boys.
Live, and everybody, welcome to PEMA TV.
Welcome to Friday, December 6th, 2013.
Where did the year go? What did you do to the year? Never mind.
I sneezed.
Hope everybody is staying safe. I know there are certain areas of the country that are not used to the winter weather. Please
like
be safe.
Texas?
Well, yeah, I wasn't going to say that. That's kind of mean. Anyway, and there's a lot of them around us. But anyway, be safe out there this weekend. If you don't have to get out, don't get out. Definitely don't go to the Walmarts and try to elbow the old lady to get the last gallon of milk. Definitely don't do that. We saw enough of that on Black Friday.
Yeah, right now the only thing black out there right now is the ice.
That's right. And do be careful of that, because that is some scary stuff. But you can take care of all of your holiday shopping needs online at
Metaluna Boutique and Stones
.com. Got a picture up right now of the way one of the cases used to be set up. But all those items are still available for sale, or most of them.
Well, some of them.
But go and check out the website. The website is updated. And please, please, please don't forget, PEN now has its own radio page. If you know anybody that would be interested in bringing their show over here, all I need is a banner and some embeddable code, and we're good to go.
And Tim Yancey, you were not funny. How terrible it is down there with 84 degrees.
Yeah. Yeah. That's definitely a first world problem there, Tim. But tonight, I know nobody came to see my visage. They may come to see you.
My layers of...
Yeah, your layers of clothing.
I think it sounded like someone did you just call that?
No, he's still here. But our special guest tonight is Mr. Steven LaChance. And Mr. LaChance, are you with us?
Yeah, you got Tim Yancey in there talking about 84 degrees. I'm sitting here in single digits. You dog.
Yeah, well, see, that's Steve. That's how he. That's how Tim rolls. He likes to kind of throw that out at everybody.
Oh, believe me, I know. Tim and I have known each other for a long time. We're paranormal brothers. A lot of people don't know that. We're very close. But I can see him down there just laughing at us all up here, freezing with the snow and ice coming down. Well, it's crazy.
Well, we can always giggle and point and laugh during the hurricane season, right?
Right. That's
Yeah.
when we'll get. You know, I was at the. I moved to the. You guys know that. I lived at the beach for 6 months.
Yeah.
And I went through one, and the hurricane passed us, but it went off land. But I went down to the beach to see it, and it was a horrible day, raining and the wind blowing, and the tides coming in. And there was a bar. It was my favorite bar down on the beach called Magnolias. And I'm standing, Mangoes. And I'm standing there, and I'm watching the water come up to the bar, and I'm like, oh man, this is bad news. I know. So I feel sorry for those people in hurricanes. We can live through the snow and ice. You know, that hurricane stuff's nuts.
Yeah. Well, and it's amazing what you can get used to, because we did live in St. Louis for several years, and we got used to the snow and ice up there. In fact, we lived through the last snow apocalypse.
I know. You know what's so sad is, you know, I met you guys after you left, and you know, we could have been going out and investigating and doing all kinds of things together.
Oh, I know, and we've hit some of the same haunts.
I know. It's so funny.
Morse Mills, Mineral Springs, Zombie Road.
Yeah. Morse Mill. I was the first paranormal investigator in Morse Mill. A lot of people don't know that. An urban crawl was out, and they actually went into the building. It's a true story. I had Patrick on my show, who owns Morse Mill, but he was trying to sell he was doing an infiltration system for factories that he was trying to sell. And so they went in, and this urban crawl said, well, this place is haunted. You need to come here. So I went there, and I had some people with me, and Andy Norwich was with me for one, and we were the first people to ever step in there to investigate Morse Mill, and out comes Patrick, who I didn't know he owned it actually, because I knew him from a different life, but the first people in there. I spent a week in there before Thanksgiving 2009, and it was cold like it is this week. And, you know, and I don't care how many bonfires you build, you can't stay warm in Morse Mill because there is no heat. I mean, it's just, it's a cold building.
When did we go? March of 2010?
Yeah. Was it March? I thought it was later than that. No, we were there in the fall.
So October-ish? I think it was October.
Yeah, it was early October.
Yeah, of 2010. So we were there like a year after you.
Like a year after,
Yeah.
It's like that haunting just took off. But you know what? The history behind it was so incredible. You know, there's not too many buildings you can come across that have such a history. You know, you had the James Gang, you had Clara Bow, you had Charles Lindbergh that stayed there.
Al Capone.
Al Capone. Of course, Bertha Gifford, the famed serial killer who, you know, there's rumors she killed her first husband there. You put that kind of story in a building, and it's one of those buildings, I don't know about you guys when you were there, but it's one of those buildings that you just walk through and you feel history.
Oh, absolutely. Did you get a chance to go up to the cemetery?
Oh yeah. I was up to the cemetery. What I found interesting in the cemetery is if you look where Bertha is buried, her first husband, her second husband's buried next to her. Mr. Gifford or whatever, I forgot his name now. Yep. We'll just call him Mr. Gifford. That was an easy one, right? But at her feet is her first husband's buried. Now think about this, you know, when you look at a haunting and you try to decide what a haunting could be caused by, and there's a lot of talk about the man in there that's pretty violent. There was people that were thrown against the wall, people scratched, you know, all the stories, and they're all true. You have to wonder if that haunting is caused by the fact that they put him and buried him at her feet for the rest of his eternity.
Well, what I found most interesting there was not only that they buried her between her husbands, but she is completely surrounded by her victims.
I know, completely surrounded by her victims. You know, which was mostly her second husband's family, by the way.
Well, and this is a question I have for your experiences there. Mm-hmm. When we were there, Morse Mills has always been the type of location that, to my point of view, responds to how you are when you're there.
Yep.
Perfect. How you behave.
Exactly. So if you walk in there and you're asking reasonable, intelligent questions and you're just trying to communicate, you're not going to get scratched. You're not going to get pushed down the stairs. You're not going to get intimidated in any way. You're not going to get that oppressive kind of feeling.
Go in there and act stupid and see what happens.
Exactly.
Well, see, the second time I was there, we were there just during the day. Patrick gave us permission to come hang out during the day while he was out there working and stuff.
Right.
And there was another team coming in later that afternoon. And he's like, you can't stay the whole night. And it's like, not a problem. But we decided, seeing it was so cold, we were going to get them some hot chocolate and stuff and wait around and give it to them when they got there. We heard the car doors shut. We were down in the basement. And you could literally feel the house give this disgusted sigh. I mean, they were not in the building 5 minutes, and one of the guys was down on the floor, scratches on his back.
I know. It's like I was there one night because I would stop by occasionally and say hi to Patrick or to see who was in the hotel investigating that night. And I stopped by one night and there was this group. And forgive me, guys, if I don't remember your name because I don't remember my own children's name mostly. But I was in there and there was this big guy. I mean, he was big like Elliot, big, my son, big. Mm-hmm. And I looked at and I was talking to him and he's like, wow, and he acted real big and tough. And I said, whoa. I said, stop that. I said, you go in this hotel and with that attitude, I said, and you start provoking, I said, you're going to regret it.
Yeah.
Sure enough, he goes in the hotel and he starts provoking. It slammed him against the wall, held him against the wall, locked him into a room. That guy came out and spent the rest of the night on the front porch crying.
Right. But I mean, if you go in with respect, it's like walking into your grandma's house.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It is so nice. I mean, peaceful, quiet. It's like, trying to sneak a cookie at grandma's house in the middle of the night.
Actually, as far as our group goes, that was one of our group's first group investigations. And we actually left. We got there at like 7 o'clock.
No, we were there at...
Or 6 because... 4 because it got dark at 6.
Right.
Something like that. Anyway... We left at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and we're like, "Man, there's just nothing going on here." And then we get home and start reviewing the evidence, and it's like, "Oh my God!"
Holy smokes! Right?
I think we got like 20 separate EVPs.
Yeah, it was pretty close. It was pretty close.
First night.
But like, I will say this: one of my standard operating procedures, and it's not the smartest thing in the world, and I'm not afraid to admit that, is I'll go to the deepest, darkest part of a location. While there's other members upstairs or in the location, people know where I'm at. I'm not doing this where they don't know I'm at. But I'll go sit in the deepest, darkest hole that there is in the location. And I did that behind that fireplace back in that little room. Mm-hmm. And there's some not nice stuff that went on back in that little room
in the
behind
room
that
with
fireplace.
The school desk in it.
You can absolutely feel that, and there is no doubt that you can feel it. There's other parts of the hotel you get that feeling in too. But what was interesting is we spent 5 days in there. We slept there, we ate there, we filmed there, and then we built the bonfires. We had heater going, so we had the kitchen blocked off. But what was interesting to me was, usually you hear footsteps in the morning, and that's cool. But, what this was we were actually hearing high heels. Mm-hmm. And that was different. The footsteps being high heels. And you could tell they were high heels. And, they're also, you got to remember, Morse Mill at one time was a bordello.
Right.
So, that was interesting as well. I mean, very, very interesting building, by the way. Very interesting.
We heard boot steps while we were down in the basement. Or down on the ground level, we heard it up on the second level.
Right, the second level.
And we were the only two in the building, and we were both downstairs.
Right, and then you're running upstairs to see if you can find them. You can't find them.
Yeah.
And then, there's the interesting activity that goes on in the attic as well.
Right.
Little girl-wise and female-wise. But, so it's a very, very cool place. Anybody that hasn't been there needs to check out Morse Mill at some point in their career, because it's like like we were saying, it does give off a lot of evidence. You want some evidence, that's a place to go get it. But it's an interesting story. Do your research. Just don't take everything for granted. There's a lot of research and a lot of stories behind the building, and make sure you go armed with that sort of thing, so you can have a little bit of understanding of what might be going on around you at given times.
Right, and they're really, it really is an intelligent haunt with with a sense of humor.
Mm-hmm.
With a sense of humor.
Well,
2 o'clock in the morning one night, I had a laser grid set up in the first room with the piano.
Right.
And I had an obelisk going, and all of a sudden, anybody that knows the obelisk will say one word, and then it'll pause, and then it'll go on to another word, and then it'll pause, go on to another word. All of a sudden, the lasers across the room were starting to be broke by a shadow type figure, and anybody knows that the shadow type figures will break the lasers. That's why we use them. And the obelisk started going murder, murder, murder.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, was it playing games? Well, it could have been, or it was kind of a cool moment. Some people it scared the hell out of, but not me. I thought it was kind of neat.
Well, one of the guys on our team, Dave, he's big into the paranormal, but he said if he actually saw anything, he'd wet himself and run down the road. So be warned. We're sitting on the steps in the kitchen going up to the second floor.
Right.
And he got bored, and he's like, he went into the whole Tony Orlando and Dawn thing, knocked 3 times on the ceiling if you want me, twice on the pipes, and it actually knocked twice.
Oh my gosh!
And we got it on the recorder. As soon as he said it, knocked twice on the pipes, and you hear.
Well, then there's she's actually a former team member now. They were doing an EVP session downstairs, and Kim goes, and this is an adult show, so I'm going to say this. Kim goes, "Well, do you like Anne Marie? Do you are you the one tugging on her hair?" And you hear this.
I said, "Are you flirting with Anne Marie?"
Right.
And a guy's voice said that, bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's the sense of humor thing does too. But the only place in that entire location that I would really want to go try to do is I would like to go sit in that cistern, but you'd have to pump all that water out of there first.
Right. What I did in 2009, there was a lot of, you got to remember 2009, everybody was talking about, I want to do a movie, I want to be on TV, I want to do a movie, I want to be on TV. Well, our technology had got to the point where it was cool that, everybody could do everything they wanted to do on their own. They didn't have to wait around for a movie crew to come ask them to do something. And so we did the Morse Mill Project. And the reason we did the Morse Mill Project was to prove the fact that if you want to do a movie, go out and do one.
Right.
And it just happened to be Morse Mill that we did that in, and it was fun. And we had a blast. I'd do it again in a heartbeat.
I actually saw that movie.
Yeah, I mean, it is for what it is, but if you take it for what it was, which was to prove a point, which was you can do this yourself, you understand,
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't the highest of quality, but it was, there was some interesting stuff in it.
Yeah.
Well, when I watched it, it was after we had already investigated,
Mm-hmm.
but it kind of confirmed some of the stuff we had heard and seen
Mm-hmm.
through what you had gone through there.
Right.
Well, in the last time actually that I had a chance to talk to you when I was doing my own show on a Thursday night, we were talking about The Uninvited, but you have a new book coming out, Blessed
Right.
Are the Wicked, correct?
Yeah, I just finished the final rewrite on the manuscript. The manuscript is, when you do a book with a publisher, you have this conversation that goes back for months. They'll give you a certain rewrite, they'll give you a date to finish them, you do them. Well, the final rewrite I just finished. That's why I sound kind of tired. If I sound kind of tired tonight, it's because I stayed up all night doing the final rewrite. But it is at the publisher now, so it's out of my hands. The book is done, so it will be coming out in late August, early September of next year, 2014. It is the continuation of The Uninvited. It picks up. It's kind of different. There's 3 parts to the book. There's a diary, which picks up at 2005 and goes to 2013. There's flashbacks in the book which helps tell the story, which go all the way back to 1969. And also, anybody that knows me knows that I'm kind of famous for my nightmares that I have, and I do have quite a few that are paranormal in nature. When paranormal activities involved or paranormal buildings are involved. So those are involved as well. So you got 3 parts that run consistently with the book, and it's a really, really cool book. I tell you what, the last thing I do before I send a book off is I read it out loud. And I read it to a friend of mine last night who was very close to me. Anybody know Dakota Lawrence? It's his mom. Liz
okay.
Pittman.
Yeah,
Liz
we're good friends with Coda.
Yep.
Yeah. Liz and I are very close. And so Liz and I were on the phone late night, and I'm reading it, and she's crying. I scared the hell out of her. But I think it's the best book I've ever written.
Wow.
By far. I think up to this point, I was writing books. Up to this point, now that I've gotten to this point, I actually wrote something that's literature now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I know we had talked when you had come on Yakking with the Yeti when I was doing that. We had talked, and you had mentioned that there was a report that you had gotten back from the Catholic Church.
Yeah, I received a 156-page report from the Catholic Church the day before Thanksgiving. I got a knock on the door. I was getting ready. You know how you're getting ready for Thanksgiving
Right.
and stuff. And I answered the door, and it's the FedEx guy, and he asked me to sign, and I signed, and he hands me this book. I mean, it was a book. And I opened it up, and it said, from the Roman Catholic Church, and it said, the analysis of the Steven LaChance haunting. And you know how unusual that is for the Catholic Church to do,
Right.
for one. But, one of the first things that they apologized for, they actually did the analysis as an apology because they didn't get to us soon enough. They could have got to us a lot sooner before a lot of the things happened to us. So it was partially done because it was an apology. But as you go through it, the Catholic Church labeled the haunting as a demonic infestation of obsession, oppression, and possession.
Yeah, and I know we had talked, and it was so very important. You were so adamant about being able to get the information that you could take from there and put into print. You were going to do that. Was going to be my next question. Were you able to include even?
It's in Blessed. It is in Blessed
Okay.
in different ways. I mentioned the Catholic Church report at the beginning and in the end. It's in the opening thoughts and in the epilogue of the book. However, the information that runs throughout the book is interesting enough because I was writing that book at that time, and I even say this in Blessed. Blessed was finished for the most part. It was going through its first edit, and it was amazing to me how they knew what they knew. Because the things that the ideas that I was putting down on the page when I was writing Blessed were the same ideas they were coming to me with, which I thought was interesting. There's a lot of research on angels and the fallen and that sort of thing within the book, and they spend a lot of time in the report, in the first part of the report, going through all of that as well. It was kind of spooky in a way. So yeah, it's there through the book, and it's I had to be careful because you got to remember I'm not the only one that lived through this haunting. There's some very personal. And this is the thing. If I could, I would release the whole thing to everybody so they can read it, because it really is some interesting information. It shows you how the church thinks. It shows you how the church does things.
Mm-hmm.
However, there's things in it and hypotheses made. There's actual findings made that involve people in their personal life, which makes it absolutely impossible for me to give you guys and say, here's the thing, sit down and read it.
Right.
There's some things in that report that are so disturbing. I haven't let certain people read it because it involves them.
Wow. And I know, like I said, I know when we had talked on Yakking that night, it was you were beside yourself happily because of the validation, and you have every right to be, because not very many people in our field get that, especially from, I don't want to say that level, but from that level, you don't normally get, validation that says, yep, that's what you went through.
Yeah, at that point I had just gotten it, and now, after we look, it's been a little bit over a year, and having it in my hands for that long, and having read it over and over again, there's certain people that have read it, there's a sense of responsibility to what the information is too.
It's true.
And how do you use that, and how do you protect some people and protect their things, and I can tell you part of it. One of the parts that people find disturbing about the case is the story about Marie and her daughter. Marie came into the haunting one night and said that her daughter was pregnant. Her daughter wasn't getting married. She was out of wedlock. Very shortly after that, Marie had this terrible nightmare one night. It was the night before her daughter was supposed to go to her first appointment with the doctor. And Marie woke up screaming because in the nightmare a baby was being murdered. The next day, her daughter goes to the doctor, and they find out her baby is dead. Now, the Catholic Church puts forth an idea that it was actually, we did not help that situation, and the reason that you have to think about it is, here this woman comes into a demonic haunting, and she's telling us that her daughter was having a baby out of wedlock, and instead of trying to consult her in the way that a Christian would, we patted her on the back and said how wonderful and great that was. So there's some ideas, that flow through in and out of it like that, which are very hard. And I know Marie's not listening tonight, so that's why I can tell you the story. Marie's one of the people I have not let read the report.
Right. Well, and once again, like we talked, it's so important that people understand that, and it's good that Mr. Yancey is also in the chat room, because he also survived a violent haunting.
He sure did.
It's so important that people understand, especially in the field. There's so many people in the paranormal that are still out there for the quote-unquote just thrill-seeking, and that's fine. But they need to understand that there are true, legitimate dangers that will mess with your mental stability, your physical stability. People just need to understand that there are consequences to what we do.
There's consequences to our actions. And and that's the one thing that people. There's a lot of people that say, "Oh, I want to read that report," and I'm like, maybe I don't think you do.
Right.
Maybe it'd be a good dose of medicine for you too, but at the same point, I don't think you do, and I don't think there's some people that are ready for it, because there's no hesitation when it comes to a point of them telling you, take your personal feelings out of this, because we're going to knock you over the head now with something you did that was probably wrong here.
Yeah, you could definitely be Morbius sitting in the chair going, well, this is the red pill and this is the blue pill.
Right, yeah, exactly. Which Tim is one of the people that eventually will read it. I want him to read it, because it's some interesting ideas in there that, because of the work we do, I think, he needs to read it. And it being such a rare document that is not done that often, I mean, really, and released publicly in the way that this has been, I think Tim is one of the people that needs to read it. And I would not have a problem with him reading it. As a matter of fact, he will read it eventually. Yeah. But I got to be careful with it. And with this knowledge becomes responsibility. Who said that? I don't remember. Right, Yoda.
But, yeah. True, but I mean, but seriously, there is.
Yeah.
There
is.
That some people can handle it and some people couldn't, and it's just the way it is. But people don't.
I mean, it's very hard when you're sitting there, and I got to tell you, Eric, it's very hard when you're sitting there and you're reading this thing, and it's about your life.
Right.
It's about how you lived your life. It's about those who you love and those who loved you back, those who hurt you and those who hurt you back, and those you hurt back. And you get into some of this, and it goes a much deeper than emotionally than anyone could ever imagine. I mean, the emotional side of it and the emotional damage that was done because of it, and is extreme. And when you get into those emotional things and begin to talk about them and dissect them, it's not a very comfortable conversation. I'm an open book. As far as I go, and everybody knows that I've lived a rough life. I mean, there's no secret there. But however, I have a responsibility to those that maybe don't want people to know what they've lived through and what they've been through, because a lot of times these things pick out the deepest, darkest secrets about you, and that's how they attack you. And so that's very hard to put out there for people to, for public consumption. Where I think, I live my life. It is what it is. I mean, there's not much here. It's pretty much an open book, but other people may not.
No, I was just reading the chat room. Tim Yancey said he's jonesing for your next one.
Yeah, I'm jonesing for my next one too. I got to tell you, I can't wait. There's this thing that happens when you write a book. Crazy was like this. I couldn't wait for people to read Crazy, but I really can't wait for people to read this one, because it really delves into some of that emotionality that goes into a haunting. That happens after a haunting. A lot of people think that once the door is closed to a haunting, it's over. But however, you got to remember, we left the house in 2005, and we were having activity up until 2011. There were still things going on within our life. Tim knows that. I mean, there was times when when Tim would see me, that I would look very good, and I would look like I was getting through it. And there was times when Tim would see me, and I would look very dark and very morose, and it didn't look like I was getting through it. And then the heart surgery came along. And that did something. The moment I did, and I think I've told you this before, the moment I died on the table, I think is when the attachment was finally broken. Whatever was holding me from that haunting was finally broken at the moment of death. And this is the thing that I want you guys to understand, is I got myself in trouble paranormally. It took me to die to get that off my back.
Yep.
Think about that. It took me to die. It took death to separate me from that. Which we know in the long run that what these things are out for is death in the beginning. I mean, they're trying to destroy you in the beginning.
Right.
So in a way, I guess it felt it did, but then I was brought back, thankfully.
Yes, thankfully.
Yes,
because eventually you have to meet us.
Eventually. Yeah, I know. We're going to have fun.
But Steven, I have a question. Do you think that when it comes to surviving a violent haunting, and Tim, you can type this answer in the chat room, because I'm kind of curious about your feelings on this too. We're talking from a very young age that if somebody passes, they are always alive in your memory.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that to a certain degree, when you survive a violent haunting like that haunting will always exist to a certain degree because it's always in your memory?
I think to a point, maybe yes. It's how you live your life. I mean, if I were to go back and open the door back up, Tim and I talk about the different things that you can do to keep yourself safe from these type.
Mm-hmm.
It's laughter, humor, love of family, that sort of thing. Your faith, those things that ground us to our lives, that really in a positive way keep us safe and keep us from harm. If Tim or either I were to turn from that, and I think that is when we've tested it a little bit. When we do turn away from those ideas that we know keep us safe and keep us grounded, that's when it will try to come back in. Sure, I think at any time it will try to come back in. Right. Does it have the hold on me it did? No.
Oh,
absolutely not. And the interesting thing about that is when I died, and I'll tell you this because it's really cool, I felt like I was falling, and I felt myself slam into my body, and it hurt really bad. I mean, my whole body hurt when I slammed back into it. And the thought that went through my mind, and this bothered me for months after it happened, the thought that went through my mind was, I know why babies cry when they're born. It hurts. And it took me a long time to understand that. And it bothered me because I was like, what does that mean? There has to be some meaning to this. And finally it hit me. I had went around all of my adult life going, you know, she left me. This person died. I lived through this haunting. Poor me, poor me, poor me, poor me, poor me. Well, you know, the message to me was we're going to let you come back and we're going to let you live some more life. But you better understand, young man, that if we do, life is going to hurt. Because life hurts at times, and it's within that hurt that we learn and we grow and we actually develop our souls. It is not the good times, it is the bad times. So you're going to have to expect to have some hurt in your life. And, you know, when it happens, nobody wants the poor me anymore.
Yeah, I mean, and
that's the realization.
And you are judged by your actions. That's
Sure.
A lot of people have trouble with that. You can be a very virtuous person and never harm anybody, but if you
Right.
never do anything, it doesn't. You have to be able to prove to people that you've done that, to kind of say that you've been here. Because when you're gone, you're gone.
Mm-hmm.
But it's your actions while you were alive is what people will remember.
Well, I tell you what,
Perfect.
you're on the operating table and you're getting ready to die, because you know when you're going into that type of surgery, you're going to die.
Mm-hmm.
You see your family for the last time before they wheel you away, and the moment that happens, the meaning of life becomes very crystal clear to you. And this is it. You want to know what the meaning of life is? It has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with those you love and those who love you in return.
I agree.
That's it. There's the meaning of life. It has very little to do with you.
A perfect example of what we're talking about, too, is somebody that just passed in the last few days, and that would be Nelson Mandela.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, he was such a giving person. Look at he turned a country full of pure hate into a country not necessarily of love, but from a place far from pure hate.
How do you forgive? Now, this is the thing, and you know, forgiveness plays into a lot of this too, because you got to be able to forgive those that hate you, hurt you, beat you, betrayed you, lied to you. You got to be able to forgive. Nelson understood that, because you think about this. Nelson was able to forgive the people that held him captive for 27 years in a 12 by 12 room?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, can you imagine, where does that forgiveness come from? Where does that kind of love for another human being come from? When you can do that and you can forgive somebody that hurt you to that degree. However, you know, that is the kind of thing that you need to do. You know, when you look at the new book, and the new book's called Blessed Are the Wicked, a lot of people think, oh my God, that's a scary title. It's not. It's not a scary title at all. Because Blessed Are the Wicked is just that, is blessing those that hurt you. Bless those wicked people that hurt you, hate you, beat you. Bless those wicked things that try to destroy your life. Because only then, within that blessing, can you find yourself again and become whole.
Right. Well, in there a saying that says about hate, that hate is like drinking poison and hoping to kill somebody else.
Right.
Yeah.
I got really good at hiding hate. I got really good at hiding anger.
Mm-hmm.
I was a master of it. I could hide it real well.
Yeah,
You
but
know,
unfortunately, you hit it in your heart to the point to where it needed help.
Yeah, it destroyed my heart. I mean, really. And you know, and the thing is, I got really good at doing that. You know, and a lot of the poor me was going on too. You know, I had that kick me sign on the back all the time. You know, you put all that in combination. But the thing is, you know, and my thing was I can't forgive this person for doing this to me because, you know, of what they did to me, and this is impossible. Mm-hmm. But the truth of the matter is I can forgive them. I can forgive them, because only in forgiving them am I able to release the power that they have over me. And that the same goes for anybody that I'm talking to tonight. Only within forgiveness can you release the power that person or that thing has over you. You have to be able to bless those wicked people and those wicked things. They deserve that blessing. Mm-hmm. Because only within that are you going to heal. It's very interesting. It's a very hard thing to do. It's almost, you know, it is the hardest thing to do.
And
however, it's the essential thing to do.
and the only thing I was going to interject there too is one of the hardest things that happens is being able to remove your ego from the situation. Because if you can't pull yourself out, you're like, I have to do this myself. When in reality, no, you don't. You need help.
Right, I know. You know, I always went around saying I don't have an ego. You know,
right?
I'm not an ego. I'm humble. I'm humble. Bullshit. I had a huge ego.
Right.
I had a huge ego. If I didn't have a huge ego, I wouldn't have taken and taken all of that stuff and put it inside, and I wouldn't have been hiding all of this stuff for so many years from people. You know, I have a huge ego. I think we all do to that extent. But you know, the thing is it's taking that part of you, that ego part of you, putting it to the side and saying, you know, it's just not worth it anymore. But however, you find that, you know, you don't have the energy to continue doing the thing that's harming you. You know,
right.
You're opening the door. You know, negative attracts negative, positive attracts positive. Put negative in your heart for a long period of time, to the point that I did. There is no wonder I had demons running after me all over the place. Right. You know, I mean, I opened the door to pure evil. How did I open the door to pure evil? Because I had these things that were happening to me, which turned to evil in my heart. I don't know how else to say it.
Right, and then on top of that, you were also exposing yourself to extremely active locations. So
oh my God, yes.
Which would be like cutting your leg and then going swimming with the sharks. You know what I mean? It was just a matter of time too. Would you agree with that?
Right. I ran a team. I was the founder of the Paranormal Task Force. Okay. And we went into an investigation in 2007. I left the team work in 2007 to start going out on my own. This is the reason why. We went to an investigation in 2007, and there was in this investigation, it was a suicide, and the girl actually wrote her suicide note on a wall in glow-in-the-dark ink. Well, the girl that was with me was trying to decipher the suicide note, and you get down to the end of the note and you realize that this woman had put a gun in her mouth and blew her head off. Now, the thing is, 2 weeks later, she was sitting at home, and her ex-husband came and he said, I got a gift for you. And he opened up a box and he pulled out a shotgun and put it to her head and blew her head off. And at that moment, that hit me. That relation hit me that, man, I shouldn't be doing this. You know, I'm out here, I'm not well myself. I'm coming out of this haunting. I got all of these things that are going on with me, and I'm out here doing these things, and I'm bringing these things to other people. You know, I almost had a nervous breakdown over that. I mean, I really did. I went into hiding for a good 6-7 months because I didn't know how to handle it. It took a long time for me to get my mind around it, but, it made me understand that if you come across something evil, it's going to play with your life, and in the end, you could lose your life. And unfortunately, this young woman, she lost her life, and there's 3 young children now without a mother. And I feel a little bit responsible for that, I got to tell you. But part of feeling responsible for that is to be able to stand up and say, maybe I did have something to do with that. Mm-hmm. As horrible as it was.
Well, and that also shows your character too. I mean, there's no other way to say that, because a lot of people would not step up and say that, Steven.
Right.
You know, it's like I said earlier on Facebook when I spam for this.
You know, the thing is, Eric, and I got to say this: the whole fame thing doesn't mean a shit to me.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to put it out there the way it is, and I want people to understand the way it is, and I want them to protect themselves, because I think there's a lot of people out there going down a very dark road, and they're going to get slapped in the face, and they're going to turn around and they're going to go, why didn't someone tell me?
Right.
Well, I told you this all along. You just weren't listening.
Right. Well, and like I said when I spammed on Facebook, you are one of the true gentlemen of the paranormal. I don't think I could find 2 people to say. I don't think I could find 2 reputable people to say anything bad about you. You know what I'm saying? And there's a very short list of people out there. You, Mr. Yancey, of the people that we've been exposed to, that I can put in that group. Nobody that they know who. How could you say something bad about Tim?
You can't.
Well, 20 years ago when Tim was doing his thing, yeah, maybe so.
You
And
know,
I think
I
even
met him in 2007, and I got to tell you, at that point, I had lost my daughter. My daughter had left. You know, we were very close now, but she had left. I was going through a really bad time. The haunting, all of that was going on. We were getting ready to film, you know, Zombie Road and all of that, which I have to wonder, you know, some of the activity that was going on there wasn't some of the demonic that was surrounding me. But, you know, Tim saw it in my eyes right away. He saw the hurt and pain. In there, and he understood it, and he recognized it. And the reason that he recognized it and saw it was because he himself had gone through the same type of pain and was dealing with it on his own terms. And I think, you know, both of us were dealing with that pain and that hurt and, you know, that, you know, poor me syndrome. I mean, we dealt with it at different times and in different ways. But I learned a lot from Tim. I learned from Tim that, you know, it's okay to laugh again. It's okay it's okay to be happy, you know, because there was a time when I would find myself and I would smile or I would laugh and I would feel guilty for it, but like I wasn't allowed to do that. Tim was one of the people that taught me it was okay again, and I love him for that, and he knows that.
Yeah. And
poor Steve though, he's got this double thing going on, because not only was he feeling bad, but he's from the show me state. We've all got that skeptical ego. I mean, people think it's funny when we said we're from the show me state, but Steve will tell you we're the biggest hardheads ever.
Yeah, absolutely stubborn as hell.
I couldn't agree with you more. I can't believe you ever admitted to that. And it's recorded. And it's recorded.
But it's true, isn't it? We will stand toe to toe with anybody to prove ourselves right, because that's the way we were raised. And even if we know it's hurting us, we're still going to fight that fight.
Well, you know, what's interesting, too, is, you know, when we were always going through the Screaming House haunting, I mean, there was times when there was one night that we were in the house. You'll get an understanding of what she's saying. There was a night that we were sitting in the house and something went by us and in a real low voice said, Jesus. You used to call the house and a female would answer the phone and she would say the Lord's Prayer and she would hang up. You know, us, you know, in our hard head, well, it's a bad haunting, and these are bad things. Without ever taking, you know, our hard heads to stop to say, you know, the demonic aren't going to say Jesus or say the Lord's Prayer. Mm-hmm. You know, what was going on there? Well, in realization, you know, when you stop and think about it, you get an understanding that every time the demonic is present, the angelic are also present. The angelic are there to try to help you out of it and try to show you the way. They're only going to try to show you the way. They're not going to hold your hand to do it. These were the angelic that were there that were trying to get us out of trouble, saying, this is the way to go. But we were like, oh, no, that's scary because it's demonic. But it wasn't actually the demonic, because every demonic haunting out there also has the good side to it. Remember, negative attracts negative, positive attracts positive. You have the yin and yang. You can't have the negative without the positive either. You know, so, you know, but the good old show me thing is, you know, I'm stubborn. This is the demonic haunting, and that's the way it's going to be. I was too stubborn to see the help that was being offered to me right in front of my face. Seriously. And it's like, you know, there's a lot of people out there going through things right now that they don't see that the help is there, and they won't help themselves. And, you know, that's the thing. You can bring exorcists in all you want. You can bring any demonologist in all you want. The help actually comes from yourself, comes from your own heart, comes from your own soul. If you're not willing to accept help, or you're not willing to help yourself, there is nothing on this earth that's going to take it all away.
And we don't care how bad you show us, we're still going to argue with you.
Right.
There is a message for you.
And we're going to argue.
Right?
Right.
And there's a message for you in the chat room from Tim Yancey. It says, good to hear your voice tonight, buddy. I love your message. I love how you sound tonight. I was scared for a while that you were still struggling. You feel good to listen to tonight. I wanted you to know I love you. Trish and I pray for you all the time, and it's so good to hear the positive in your voice.
took a long time getting there, buddy. I love him. It's my brother. You know, he'll read Blessed of the Wicked before any of you will.
Oh, well, he should.
He always does.
Well, that's because he's spoiled.
Yeah, we spoil him. And I mean, you know, I do. I love him and Trish they are family to me. I do. I consider them family, and I learned so much from him. And, you know, and sometimes I feel like we took our hands together. I remember going when I was there was stuff that I was trying to hide. I could never hide it from Tim.
Right.
I could never hide it from Tim because Tim had been there. Tim had known, you know. Tim knew that guy because Tim was that guy.
Right.
So he knew when I was hiding things, and Tim would just stand back and give me this look. He didn't ever say anything, and this is what I love about Tim. He would never say anything. He would just give me the look, and I would look at him, and I knew exactly what the look meant. And the look meant, you know, you've gotten off track here. You need to come back to where you belong.
Well, just don't let Tim come in and try to cleanse your house. We told him a new trick that someone's doing, and
oh my goodness.
Let
me tell you this real quick.
I want to hear.
One of our shows interviewed a lady, and I can never remember her name.
And it's probably a good thing.
But
he's
runs,
typing it in the room.
But she runs a magazine, a paranormal magazine, like the other 1,000 or 1,500 that are out there. But she was actually interviewing a group in Oklahoma. Please remember what state I mentioned they were from. In Oklahoma. This group would go into people's houses, and they would basically spray glitter everywhere inside this house.
Oh God!
Now, when the people came back, they said, you know, who beat up the stripper gang in our house in here? And the people they would tell them that they put the glitter throughout the house because it's shiny and it confuses the spirits, and they will go away.
I've never heard such a thing. Okay.
Tim thinks it's so funny. That's why don't let Tim cleanse your house.
Yeah, it'll be full of glitter.
I could see Tim running through a house with a bag like Rip Torn.
Yeah. Yeah, but see, that's confetti. Glitter is so small.
Yeah, I can see it. I can see it with the glitter.
But I mean that's that's something that we should probably talk about and we can run as long as we want to tonight, unless you need a jet in 8 minutes.
Oh no,
we can keep going.
You know, I can talk forever to you guys.
We that's something we need to talk about. Is people, one, don't need to copy everything they see on the shiny box, but two, there's stuff that's just getting ridiculous out there that's really got to stop, or it's going to get people hurt, or it just causes so much more damage. You know, just because you have all 5 seasons or 8 seasons or whatever, however many now of Ghost Hunters, just because you have all of those on DVD
doesn't make you an expert.
Doesn't make you an expert, and doesn't mean that you can actually help a family that's going through what you were going through. You know, and there are so many people out there that think just because they watch the TV shows, or just because they think they have a show, that they can actually go in and help these families, and they're not. They're causing damage.
Look at the group that just went into Louisiana, and
oh God, that's not even. Those are just.
Well, they're wannabes.
Yeah.
But they've probably seen a few shows, decided they were going to that plantation, the LeBeau plantation over in Louisiana, and they were going to go ghost hunting. Well, when they got no reaction within the first couple hours, they literally burned down the plantation.
Yeah.
Right. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, I remember, you know, I did the team thing. And I remember why I did the team thing. I did the team thing because I was trying to help myself, which isn't a good idea, but we couldn't find quality help at the time. You know, but one of the first things that happened, you know, after you take that first step is the T-shirts and the cards, you know? Mm-hmm. And it's like, you know, you stop and thinking it's like anybody can get these T-shirts and the cards. Well, you got to remember, I had some really good people that were teaching me. I had some really good people that were backing me. You know, and that was how I was able to step in and actually really help some people. I had some of the best backing. I mean, Johnny Zappis is one of the best people you can have backing you in the world. I mean, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. You know, I had that kind of help that was going on. I had clergy behind me. And I think they were wise in a way. I think they knew that through helping others and seeing these other cases, that sooner or later the connection was that I needed to make was going to be made, which it did. But you know, and in the process of me finding my way, I was going to help other people in the process. Kind of cool, in that way. But you know, there's a lot of teams out there that don't have John. There's a lot of teams that don't have clergy. There's a lot of teams that have not been through this kind of stuff that, you know, I have been through. They could take personal things and do things with it. So,
yeah, people just need to be. They have to understand that they're. If you don't go into this with the right mindset and you're not doing it for the right reasons, you're gonna go down a path that you have no concept or clue how to get off of.
And there are a few on or were on TV that actually tried to get something attached to them to be able to write a book.
Right.
That is the most horrible thing in the world.
You know, I never wrote my books for fame.
No.
Fame was not the thing. No, I mean, that's fine because there are people that are doing it, is what you're talking about. I never wrote it for fame. I wrote it to try to help someone else.
No, I understand that.
I wrote it to cleanse my soul.
Well, we've met two different people who have flat out said, I want to get a demonic attachment. I want to get possessed so I can write this book.
God help you.
You know, do not watch what you wish for.
Careful what you wish for.
I know. I remember before I went into, give you an example of what they're asking for. I remember the week before, the week or so before I went in to get my heart surgery, which was a 5-way bypass. You guys have heard of quadruple bypass? I had a 5-way bypass because I like bacon, but But I remember the surgery, you know, the week or so before, and we would go into the kitchen, and all the cabinet doors would be standing open, and we would find butcher knives lined up in the floor. You know, and you can't imagine, knowing what I was getting ready to go through, what that did to me, because I was going, well, what is this trying to tell me? Is it going to kill me in this process? Is that what those knives mean? You know, I mean, the psychological thing that it was trying to do to me was incredible at that point. And, you know, that's the kind of mind, you know what, that we're dealing with when you ask for this. You know, it's not the scares. They're there. You know, the scares are there. But it's, I would say that the frightening part of it is so much less than the emotional damage. The emotional damage is far more subtle and far more damaging than anything a bump in the night can do to you. It's the psychological stuff that really, really, really rocks your world. Yeah. And that's what they're asking for. They're asking for everything they know, everything they love, everything that is important to them to be not only messed with, but in some ways taken away from them.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's funny that a lot of the people that are very legitimate in this field, and a lot of people that are very, I guess virtuous is the only word I can think of right now that really describes them, don't go out putting it out there. They're not walking around going, look at my scar, look at my scar. You know, it's very much, you have to approach them, ask them a question, and then you will gladly explain to them why you feel the way you do and what you've been through.
I know why Tim and I started what we did. I mean, Tim and I were some of the first cases to step forward and really start talking. And it kind of freaked out the investigators a little bit. I remember that, because they were like, all of a sudden the cases are coming forward and they're talking, so what are we going to talk about? I mean, literally it was like that. But I remember why we did it, and it was to help people, to help people and educate teams and educate those people doing the work, number one. And it was even more to help someone that had been through it and that was going through it. And I remember, when we first started there, people would come across the country that had lived through something, that were living with something, just to be with us, just to talk to us, just to learn with us, and just, that communication. And the last thing that I did with Tim, we were getting ready to do it, and I looked in the audience, and this woman came in. She had a soda in one hand and a popcorn in the other, and she was like picking out her seat like she was going to the movies. And I looked at Tim, and I was like, and he had the same look on his face. And it was like, all of a sudden the connection, I think he made the same connection I made at the moment, was, what we started out to help and what we started out to do was great, and it worked for a while, but we were now becoming entertainment.
Right.
And that was a hard pill to swallow. I mean, that it hurt. It hurt. I got to tell you, I walked away from that weekend really shook by it, because everything that we wanted to do seemed like it was going to this entertainment level, and you're seeing that now. I see, with the films and stuff. We're entertainment. But people don't stop and understand that it's not just entertainment, it is real life, and these are things that really happen. And that was a really hard pill for me to swallow that weekend. It really shook me. It really shook me, because all of this time I thought we were helping. I thought we were doing something good. And, and then to see it turn into a circus kind of bothered me.
And I can tell you this from our experiences in the last couple of years, because Kim and I have done more conventions. We actually did our own, which was a marvelous event. Wasn't a huge 10,000 people showing up like we wanted, but that's okay too. Mm-hmm. The whole paranormal convention thing is almost to the point of complete burnout.
Right.
It's almost to the point to where you can't. You can't go 3 steps on Facebook without seeing somebody's event, which I guess is okay. But like you said, it takes a very serious message like what you guys were trying to do, and it starts to dull it. Does that make sense? It makes it almost to the point to where, like you said, it becomes entertainment. People weren't inviting you to conventions because they wanted you to come share and affect the lives of the people that were there. Right. They wanted you to come entertain people for an hour, and then you can sell a few books or whatever that thing is that you do, and you start getting that mentality, and it, like you said, it's hurtful.
It is, I remember the weekend in 2007 when Tim and I came up with the name Haunted Survivor,
Right.
And it wasn't really an intentional thing. I mean, we didn't sit down and say, okay, let's come up with a name for us, of what we are. I think, we knew that we really weren't investigators, and we really didn't kind of fit into the research thing, and we were more to help people. However, we were still different because we lived through this, and it just, that name just kind of evolved out of that. But there was a time when it was a name to be proud of. It was. I mean, it was, we're Haunted Survivors. However, when you put the name Survivor on yourself, you realize that by having the name Survivor on you, what you're telling people is, I got to keep surviving here. Well, there's a time when you need to survive, and you need to get over it, and you need to move on, and you need to start living. There's a time when the survival is over. You don't want to spend your whole life just surviving. You want to spend your life living. There's a difference. There's a semantical difference there. And, and it was very hard when that hit me between the eyes and I had the realization. And it was like, man, I'm just surviving. I didn't want to be called a victim. I really didn't. And so I thought it was a big thing. Okay, if I'm not a victim, I'm a survivor. But by putting that survivor name on myself, I did as much damage to myself as by calling myself a victim. Because in the long run, I should say, I'm a living human being that has went through some shit. Okay, but life is good. I can go on from this now. That survivor name, I guess maybe we outgrew it.
Right. I could see where you would think that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you kind of when I stopped and thought about it, and I'm like, am I defining myself by the haunting? Now, anybody that's read my books know that the haunting is kind of secondary to the whole life experience, because the whole life experience played into the haunting and everything that happened. So I mean, that is just as important. But am I defining myself by this one moment in my life? And because I'm defining myself by this one moment in my life, people are never going to see the great person that I can be and who I am.
I don't think you're so much defining yourself because of the haunting.
God, we're having a serious one tonight, boys.
I think...
You should have charged him extra.
Right.
I think it's just more of a simple explanation of why you do what you do now.
Right.
I don't see it as, a defining point in your life.
But however, that's the thing. Once you make that realization and you were like, okay, I'm not going to let it define me anymore. I'm more, I'm a dad. I'm a single dad, by the way, who raised 3 kids. I have grandchildren. I'm more of a grandfather than I am this thing.
He's got beautiful grand girlies, let me tell you.
Yeah, they are. Thanks. But you know what I'm saying? It became very important. You live it. You get through it. Yes, you survive it. But however, the more important thing in healing is the natural progression that you move on. And you can still share it. Sure, you can still share it at times. But however, that whole process needs to be shared, not just the scary moment.
Well, let me ask you, this is something I've been thinking about too, concerning people that have survived violent hauntings. Do you ever look back into the abyss? Do you ever turn back around? Are there ever moments where you turn and don't dive back into it head first, but turn back and look where you've been?
There's post-traumatic stress syndrome out of it, obviously. There's moments when a pounding will happen on a wall, a noise will happen you can't explain. The darkness sometimes moves at night for us. Mm-hmm. There's those moments. However, it's not. It's your strength becomes different. I guess that's a good way to describe it. Because you're strong now. You can handle it. When it first hit you, you were at the lowest point of your life. And that's something we do know. Those of us that have lived through this were at our lowest point, the lowest point in our possible in our lives when it hit us between the eyes.
Right.
You know when I knew you turned around?
When?
For the longest time you would post constantly about hauntings and locations and investigations and events and this and that and the other thing. And then one day you posted pictures of you and your granddaughter.
Right.
And ever since then, things kind of changed.
Yeah. And if you notice, I spend a lot of time trying to, instead of sharing the dark side, I try to share more of the light. It's very important to me that that my mission on this earth is to share the good, mm-hmm. and to share its because people learn by example. If we're going to teach by example and we're going to teach people about this, the biggest lesson we can teach them is the positive is what keeps you sane. The positive is what keeps you safe. It's those dark things and those dark moments when you're in danger. And how do you keep yourself out of danger? You keep a positive mental outlook. And I don't want to sound like Tony Roberts, or whatever he's been, Tony Roberts. But there is some truth to that. There is some truth to that. And it's, and the law of attraction does work to an extent. What frustrates me though with the law of attraction is people, that want to use the law of attraction for financial gain, and to get a brand new car. I don't think the law of attraction works like that. I think the law of attraction that actually works, the way the law of attraction actually works, is, again, you bring positive in your life, you live a positive life, and because of that, positive attracts positive, and the outcome becomes positive. It doesn't get you a brand new car. I'm sorry you don't believe that.
What do you mean there's not millions in the paranormal field?
Well, I think...
the thing is I got to tell you something. Out of all the films I've done, I've never taken a dime.
Really?
Really, I never got paid for any of the television I've ever done.
I think one of the greatest things that can be taught to others in this field, and I think you and Tim both do it very well, is as much as we deal with death and the graveyards and the haunted houses and all the creepy stuff, it is the fact that both of you post now more than before a lot about your family, showing that there's life out there. There's a second part to what we do. It's not all death.
You can't pick yourself up, and you can't put yourself back together, and you can live a good life.
Right, and be thankful and be proud of what you have now, too.
Our message is universal in that way. I mean, it's no different than someone that survived a tornado, a hurricane, rape. I can go through any number of horrible things. I mean, let's face it, everybody has baggage.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has baggage, and it's how you get through that baggage and live your life afterwards that counts. Remember, life's supposed to hurt. It is supposed to hurt, and it is supposed to be difficult. And through that, you learn. I've become I've grown so much through all of this, in so many ways. In the life experience too, and I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back.
Well, I think my point is a lot of people that's all they talk about. That the paranormal, when they've got family and friends sitting right there next to them that they're kind of ignoring because they're so into this.
I can't, and the thing is I have to be very careful too, because my children don't want to sit around and talk about it all the time.
Right.
I mean, they're living positive lives. I mean, my daughter is a good mother, 3 children. My son Eli is getting his PhD in chemistry. Awesome. Elliot is getting ready to go to the police academy. Those are kids that were put back together well, by the way.
I don't want to get pulled over by Elliot.
Yeah, they definitely have to give him a truck to go around in.
Elliot is going to do his time as a regular officer, and then he is going into the DEA. Nice. And the reason he is doing that is he's seen too much damage done to the young people that he grew up with.
Right.
Yeah. I would agree, because meth is a terrible, terrible plague up there.
It is. So, I mean, you go to the grocery store and you can pick them out,
Oh, yeah.
They're the Walking Dead. You want to talk about the Walking Dead? They're the Walking Dead.
Shoot, you should come spend an hour in my store. Apparently down here they have something called potpourri or K2 now. Mm-hmm. And these people are coming in my store probably every other day trying to buy this stuff. And I'm just looking at them going...
Yeah, the stuff that you used to put in a little bowl by your front door so your house smelled good?
Yeah.
These potpourri heads are cutting all that stuff up and smoking it.
Right.
Yeah, they're putting something on it, but seeing I own a boutique and metaphysical shop...
They think it's a head shop.
They think it's a head shop, and...
It's a head shop, right.
And you're a witch.
Oh, yeah, and I'm a witch.
Yeah.
And you're a witch.
I don't know what that makes me.
A dork for marrying me?
Yeah, I guess. A broom.
The thing is the haunting was one thing. I lived the Christmas 2005, the day after. Me and my daughter and Elliot had a horrible accident where the seatbelts didn't work, and my daughter and my head and my daughter's head both slammed into the windshield and cracked the windshield. She had an instant concussion with an instant nod. I got out of the van. I couldn't hear. I was stumbling around. However, I knew that she was in trouble, so my focus went completely to her. She had a mild concussion, and they told us how to take care of the concussion. I kind of knew I had a concussion. I did. But, I thought, well, I'll watch the signs that they told me to watch with her, and I'll be okay. In 2007, I started having trouble with my speech. I stutter in the mornings, and I have trouble with my motor skills. And it was because my brain actually hit my skull. And this is the first time I've talked about this. And my brain actually hit my skull, and it caused damage. It's irreversible damage, and it's damage that gets worse all the time. Without the medication, I have trouble talking, and I have trouble walking. I have trouble actually holding things in my hands. When I go to a convention, I will wake up. If I have to speak in the morning, I will wake up extra early to make sure I take the medication in time so no one notices. And I'm tired of hiding that.
Right.
But the point of the matter is a lot of people were like, well, that's paranormal. And I think a lot of times that's why I didn't talk about it, because I didn't want people, sometimes you're just a bad driver,
Right.
Sometimes shit just happens.
Right.
However, all of this stuff, that I have to live with, I have so many more challenges than just a haunted house, and I have to live my life positively, shit happens, I move on. If I would let myself go down, I would get very, very down very quickly. And I think that's all of us, though. I think we all have that moment or that thing that causes us that pain, that causes us that fatigue, that causes us whatever. And we a lot of times we hide it from other people. And so maybe we should talk about it a little bit more. And maybe we should say, well, this is what I'm going through. And maybe it would help us deal with it a little bit more. However, there's so many people that let this stuff take control of their lives. And I'm just not willing to let that stuff take control of me anymore. I'm done.
Wow.
I'm done. I want to live my life. I want to live it happily, and I want to be a good grandpa. That's what's important.
Well, if it helps any, Steve, I have a severe stutter too.
Well, what was very horrible about that is I was a broadcaster for a long time, and I'm talking regular broadcasting. I did daytime drive time. I produced 6 hours of talk radio a day, and all of a sudden I couldn't talk.
Right.
It took a while to get to the point where I could talk again. And it was that was horrible. I think that was worse going through than even the haunting, in some ways. But in Blessed, I finally share it with people because it's something that I wanted people to know, because I wanted people to know that there's so much more to a life, even in challenges, than just one thing. We're made up of a plethora. I love that word, plethora. We're made up of a plethora of experience, not just one.
Right. They're onions, just different layers.
Yeah, just different layers, and we all have our layers, and we all have the things that we deal with.
Well, and
but I used to go out of my way to hide it, and it was like, why am I hiding this? Why can't I say to people, all right, you catch me on a bad day, I might not be able to talk to you very well. I don't know. I don't know why I did it, but...
Well, do you think sometimes it's and not that you were back then, but I know with my spiritual experiences that I've had since I started in the paranormal field, I couldn't have had them until I reached a certain age or a certain maturity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe you have to be at a certain level of maturity, not that you were immature before, but did you have to reach a certain level of maturity before the universe will basically let you experience things, because you can't handle it if you hear about, it's like Jack Nicholson. Yeah.
But I think you're right, because all of this stuff turns on itself within itself, and it all connects. It's not just one thing. The haunting becomes very secondary to any of us that have lived through it, that any of us that are living through it. becomes very secondary. It's all the other stuff, really, that really matters. You know, it's not the noise, and I can't get this to investigators. It's not the noise that is knocking on the door, you know, at night that is the problem. It's what's going on inside that's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it really is. And it's, you know, and if you can take care of what's going on the inside, you're going to take care of the haunting. And, you know, and Tim, you know, I know Tim, when Tim goes and does, and I heard him say this recently, when he goes in to do a cleansing, it's a celebration. You know, they dress in white, they sing, they dance. You know, and why is that? Why is that? Why does that work? Well, you know, to me that works because it's taking that person and it's uplifting them. We all need to be uplifted. We all need to deal in some way and put aside the baggage and learn to deal and live uplifting lives. And I think that's what Tim's doing. I think it's very valuable work he's doing, by the way. I think he's got his thumb on what this is, and that is the truth. And it is living our lives in the best way we can, and not beating ourselves up for stuff that we can't control, and controlling the stuff we can control, and, you know, and realizing that sometimes things are going to be hard, sometimes things are not going to go the way we want to. However, you know, there's a lot of positive in this life as well. Mm-hmm. It's just very, very hard to teach someone. You know, I don't understand.
Well, and then sometimes people in this time that we're living in and the economic times we're going through and whatnot, a lot of people feel like there's just so much oppression from all of that they get into a vicious spiral.
You know, I got to tell you something. You know, I lived, when my wife left us, she left us homeless. She took 6 months of our bill money and she bankrolled it to move on. She left us homeless. She left us pretty much with the shirts on her back. But the thing that got me through it, guys, and this is the, you know, is the thing, is I always thought to myself, God will provide. God will provide. Mm-hmm. I will get through this because God will provide. I will be, you know, it may not be the way I think it's going to be, and it may not be all that I think I need, but the truth of the matter is I will get what I need. Mm-hmm. You know, with that attitude, that is what happened. You know, it was funny. I got to tell you, there was times when I would get, you know, all of a sudden, something would happen positively, and I would get a $2,000 check. Well, the air conditioner would go out, you know, on the house, right. You know. But, you know, my mother always pointed it out to me, and she always goes, but, you know, the fact of the matter is that you had that money to take care of it. You were given that money to take care of that problem. And it was very true. Yep. You know, you're always, you know, you were never given more than you can handle, by the way. And you were never given something, it may not go exactly the way you think it might go, but however, you will always be provided for if you will stand back and let it happen.
Yeah. God must think we're a bunch of badasses then.
Yeah, well, you know, if you look at the people that are having severe problems, you know, a lot of times, you know, you have the drug and alcohol that step in.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not saying that everybody out there that's having severe problems is that, but a lot of that is out there. You know, and, you know, so what you need to do is keep yourself clean in that respect as well.
Yeah. Have respect
keep your mind and spirit clean.
And have respect for yourself.
And you notice this is not religion. We're not talking religion here.
Mm-mm. No.
And I would never come on anything and preach to anybody religion. I talk about positive energy, negative energy. I talk about God in the sense that is what I call this power is God. That's what I believe it is. Mm-hmm. However, you know, it's like, but it's something that you can all take within your lives. You know, don't turn it off because you think it's religion, because it's not. It's basic techniques to live a good life.
Right.
It took me a long time to learn them. Tim kept trying to beat me over the head with them, by the way.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know how many times I stood up front of in an audience and said, "These are the 5 things you need to do to keep yourself clean and keep your life going well." And I wasn't doing any of them.
Yeah.
Myself. You know, heal or heal thyself.
Practice what you preach.
Yeah.
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Mr. LaChance, we are going to have to wind down here so I can fit this on YouTube. I've been
I love you guys, by the way. You know that.
Oh, yeah. We love having you on. Okay, now people can get the Uninvited. They can get that all on your website at StevenLaChance.com, correct?
They can go to Amazon. They can go to any major book outlet, and they can get it in English and in French.
Ooh.
What about Spanish?
Well,
I'm kidding.
just English and in French. I don't know why not Spanish, but maybe it's because of the last name LaChance. I don't know.
Well, there you go. There you go. Well, I was just going to say, if you've got it in English and French, it sounds like you're just trying to sell to Canada.
Yeah, well, I have a huge Canadian following, believe it or not.
Do you really? Well, I would believe that.
Well, and New Orleans.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
And it's very funny, but they're great. And it's like people from around the world now contact and just want to talk. And and the thing is let them talk. Talk to them and see what they have to say, because sometimes people just need a shoulder.
Yeah.
And
need an ear.
Sometimes they have really interesting things to say that
you may have never heard before.
right, or at least an interesting twist to what you've already heard.
Right, or give you a perspective on something that you've never heard before.
Right.
Well,
So all that stuff's available out there. You could get it, and when Blessed comes out, it'll be at all the major bookstores, and it'll also be just like the Uninvited and Crazy will be at Amazon.
Yeah. And go buy his books. They make great stocking stuffers.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, they do. I never thought of that.
Throw that out there, or
They
or
fit
even
perfectly in one of those big stockings.
and I can only assume, Steven, that they are also available in electronic forms, Kindle, Nook, all that.
Yes, they're available in all electronic forms as well.
Awesome.
You can't be an author today and not be involved electronically.
We're starting to notice that.
I still prefer a paperback.
I agree with you on that. I like that thing I can hold in my hand.
Yep.
And don't tell me, well, you can hold the Kindle in your hand. Well, yeah, you can. But I like that book. I don't know why.
Well, because I like to, if I want to refer to a specific page, to actually flip to the page and not have to scan my finger 1,000 times to get to said page.
And you can actually kill a fly with a book.
Yes, you can.
And it's a lot cheaper than killing it with a Kindle.
I'm really into the artwork of my books too. If you see my books, the artwork on my books is very striking. I have a lot to do with the artwork that go on my books. They ask me my opinion and I give it pretty freely. Because the artwork's kind of fun, I think. But
yeah,
I don't have any of his books in my shop.
well, maybe you could talk to him off air about that.
Maybe.
But anyway, if anybody's going out this weekend to do any kind of paranormal researching or investigation, please be careful, protect yourself, know what you're doing, and get permission.
And stay warm.
And stay
and
warm.
do not catch anything on fire to stay warm.
No kidding. Mr. LaChance, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
I love you guys.
But stick around for a second.
Okay.
And for everybody else, be safe, and we'll see you next week.
Night.